Well, here we are again with another live broadcast of Wind with Willie. Thank you for tuning in today. What we do not see, what most of us never suspect of existing, is the silent but irresistible power which comes to the rescue of those who fight on in the face of discouragement. And that's by Napoleon Hill. But guess what? We all have that silent, irresistible power within us to fight on in the face of opposition. And you're going to have it. And Win with the Talk Show is all about encouraging us to fight on, lead on, serve on, grow on, reaching our fullest potential, becoming the best version of ourselves. You know, the best gift you can give your family, your community, and your organization is the best version of yourself. And how do we become the best version of ourselves? We must first lead ourselves, then we can lead others. Because guess what? You and I cannot give what we do not have. And today, I have the distinct privilege of sharing the stage with Dr. Larry Polk Jr., Assistant Superintendent of Terrell Independent School District in Terrell, Texas. Dr. Polk, are you ready to have some fun and laugh and share some great wisdom to our crowd today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, good deal. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Dr. Polk, 28 years as a public school teacher, high school counselor, assistant principal at the middle school and the high school level, and a principal at the middle school and the elementary school level. He's held position as the director, executive director of school improvement and leadership development. But currently, he is the assistant superintendent of Terrell Independent School District in Terrell, Texas. And I'm going to take a moment right now and single this out. This is a proud moment for my last name. So, Dr. Polk, I'm going to do this because there's a school in Terrell, Texas called the Garrett E. Willie Elementary School. Google that and realize that is named after my cousin, who's a former superintendent of Terrell Independent School District, Garrett E. Willie. And so, absolutely, I have to say that, Dr. Polk.
Yes, sir. You do. You do.
Absolutely. Good deal.
You definitely have to give kudos to that name.
That name.
Something in the name.
Something in the name. So I'm proud of that name.
Yes.
But this education status of Dr. Polk, he has Associates of Art and Science, Business Management from El Centro College, bachelor's and master's degree from Sul Ross State University in Alpine, Texas. And he has a doctorate in education from Southwestern College in Winfield, Kansas. So, Dr. Polk, thank you for being here, sir. Thank you for being part of this broadcast. I want to make it known that to keep our educators and our school leaders at the forefront of our population because of the challenges that you have and the challenges that our educators have right now. But they had challenges before. But I want the public to be aware of all the great things that you men and women are doing to take care of our current leaders, which is our students every day. Yes. So thank you. So before we get started on the real nuts and bolts and all the good stuff, Dr. Polk, I just want to ask you a few questions about certain things so people get to know you a little better. Just get to know you. Lighten the load, as we say, kind of lighten the air so you get to see your teeth, get to laugh and have some fun. So let's just start at it this way. Tell the audience something interesting or fun about you. You seem very serious. I can sense that. You seem like a very serious person. So tell the audience some fun facts about you right quick.
Hey, you know, the funnest fact about me is I'm a new grandfather. My grandson calls me Pop Pop. And that is just a joy, man. That's exciting. Had I known that, being a grandparent was going to be this fun, I'd have skipped being a parent. You know what I mean? Because it is so exciting. I get to spoil him. I get to love him. I get to hug him. And then when I send him home to his parents, And so that's exactly, that's a good fun fact.
I like that statement. If I'd have known grandparenting was gonna be this much fun, I'd have skipped the parenting part. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. Now, how old is you? Have a grandson or a granddaughter?
Grandson. He's 3 years old. Gavin David. Yeah. That's my dude.
That's it. That's awesome. So, man, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, good deal. Now, I notice some days you have on a tie, some days you don't.
Right.
But still, tie or no tie, when you get home, what is it that you do when you get home? At the end of the day, your day is so busy. What's the first thing you do?
Well, I tell you, the first thing I do when I hit the drive is to turn that cell phone off and just really get into being a husband. I have a loving wife. We've been together for over 34 years, and it's just our time at that moment. We've raised our kids. We've got an empty nest, and so I just find solace into comforting her and to get the feel of what her day is like. And we just don't talk about work. We have gotten to a point that we try to leave that and just enjoy the moments, because life is so precious. We know that it's like a vapor, and we have to embrace every day.
That's absolutely wonderful. And
yes,
learning to separate the world. I hear people talk about work-life balance. You may have heard that term before.
Yes.
Well, I always try to equate that life plus work balance, life and work balance. And I'm so thankful that you get a chance to turn it off and turn on the relationship with your spouse when you get home, and being able to separate that. And I know as a superintendent, as assistant superintendent, you get those calls in the middle of the night. I know that, and you know that as well.
Right.
And you have to respond to those because the school needs you, or the community needs you as well. So absolutely. Now, he said he's been married to his wife for 34 years. He has a 3-year-old grandson. Now, he doesn't look old. I don't know what's going on here. What are you drinking? What's in the water, Dr. Polk?
Hey, man, I tell you, it's just the grace of God. I'm telling you.
Amen. Well, good deal. Okay, here we go. Another question. What's your favorite free time activity? You have some free time besides relaxing with the spouse. What's another free time activity?
Hey, I am a sports fanatic, so I truly enjoy just taking in college football, NFL. Definitely a Dallas Cowboy fan, even when we were 0-16. That's just been something growing up in Texas. And we've always loved Texas team, but more so America's team in the Cowboys. Now, I noticed you got a little Pittsburgh terrible towel there going in the background.
Wait a minute, let me move my head over.
We're not going to hold that against you.
I can't see it.
Professor Jeff, we ain't going to hold that against you. We still got love for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a story behind that. Of course, we won't get into it on this broadcast, but the simple version of that. I grew up in East Texas, DeBerry, Texas. And I was the 12th kid, 10 out of 12 kids. But in the 70s, and especially when the Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers are called the Roger Staubach and the Terry Bradshaw duo.
That's right.
They duo quite a bit in the 70s.
They did.
But somehow the Pittsburgh Steelers just resonated with me. And I was not a likable guy in school, Dr. Polk, because I'm walking the hallways and, there goes that Steeler fan.
Right.
Absolutely. So, but being independent and being your own mind, being your own person, being your single thinker, I tell you what, that resonates with me today. Absolutely. So I'm a Cowboy fan, but the terrible towel has #1 status. Now, if you want to see my Cowboy banner, let me see. Where can I find it? It's over there somewhere. It's over there.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, well, good deal. Thank you for the love anyway. And
yes, sir.
In spite of.
Yes, sir.
What's your favorite vacation spot?
It's got to be Florida. The beaches in Florida, would have to be my favorite vacation spot.
And what beaches are you on? You on the southern
Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Destin, Florida is always fun. So those are family-friendly locations and generally have a good time.
They are. That Destin Beach, that sand is extremely white.
Yes, it is.
And the water is clear.
Yes.
All right, here we go. We diving deep now, Dr. Polk.
All right.
To dive deep.
Yes, sir.
To fly to the moon or be invisible?
Fly to the moon.
Fly to the moon.
Yes.
Well, I think the ticket price right now is what,
Yeah,
$250,000. You okay with that?
$250. Yeah,
Yeah,
and you get on that
$250,000.
Virgin Airline with that guy that owns that Virgin Airlines. He get you there.
He'll get you there.
Yeah, he'll get you there.
Now, will your superintendent salary cover that? Would that be a business trip for the school district?
No, it won't be covered. It won't be covered.
It won't be covered. Huh?
It wouldn't be covered.
Okay. All right. I got one more. One more. Now, you a Texas guy.
Yes.
I'm a Texas guy.
Right.
Would you rather live without air conditioning or without heat?
Oh, definitely without heat in Texas. Man, without a doubt.
So you definitely can live without heat.
Yes.
Okay, but you got to have the AC.
I got to have the AC.
You got to have AC.
I got to have the AC.
Man, I don't know. You must grow up wealthy because you a wealthy guy. You a middle class guy.
No, it was just West Texas. It was cold out in West Texas all the time, so we got used to that cold weather.
Got used to the cold weather.
Yes.
When I grew up in East Texas, and my air conditioning was opening the door, going outside. But I had that wood stove, I had that fireplace, I had to have that heat. Of course, the weather has changed significantly because when I was growing up, we got a lot of snow in East Texas. Lots of snow every winter. Yeah. Just about every Christmas was a white Christmas in East Texas when I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s primarily, especially in the 60s.
Right.
And we would go out and play with the birds, but I had to have my heat. The air condition, open the door, open the window, go outside. That's your AC. Take the fan. Okay, that was it. Well, good deal. Thank you for sharing some of that levity and those fun facts with your audience so they get to know you a lot better, know, like, and trust. Let's get into some nuts and bolts about what you do every day.
All right.
What you do every day. Share with the audience your leadership journey and how did you become assistant superintendent in Terrell Independent School District?
I tell you, it was certainly a divine intervention. When I was in college, I aspired to be a financial analyst for Merrill Lynch and to go to law school and get a law degree and become a corporate attorney. Coming from the house of two public servants, my dad a pastor, my mom was a teacher. One of the things that they said and shared early on was go to school, get an education, and be somebody. And by saying that, Mom always encouraged that regardless of the areas of your interest, you pick up your teaching credentials. And so I followed suit with that. And when I got into my student teaching there on the campus of Sul Ross State University in Alpine, that's Brewster County in West Texas, hey, I knew then that was where I was supposed to be. I'd been called by people to serve as a servant behind the pulpit, but my true calling was behind the podium. And so public education was a no-brainer after that. And 28 years, it still feels like my very first year because the enthusiasm and the passion is still just as exciting today as it was, 28 years ago.
Well, good, phenomenal. Now you in education, but you have a specific role. You've been a director, executive director, principal, assistant principal, and now you're an assistant superintendent. As in the classroom teacher, were you aspiring to get into leadership positions in the school district?
No, I really wasn't. I was happy in the classroom educating kids, and obviously public education is probably just like any other inspiring business. It's based on influence. And, when you start out and you're having a huge influence and impact on students, then I was blessed to have some principals and assistant principals who basically said to me, you should work and support students in different areas. And one of the things that resonated with me, immediately moving out of the classroom, I became a high school guidance counselor. And what, I think really attributed to that was the fact that I was able to serve in the high school that I graduated from. And so I knew that there were a lot of counseling and guidance components as a high school student that I did not receive. And those were the mantras of why I wanted to give back, so that I can ensure that in that role, other students that were coming would be able to get those things that I didn't get. And I tell you, 10 years later, I never lost a student. And I graduated 4 valedictorians and 3 salutatorians. And we sent, hundreds of kids to college that otherwise, without that support, would not have been able to do so. And then at that point, my high school principal, he said to me, you don't ever want to get pigeonholed of only being able to do one thing. You want to always have versatility. And so he encouraged me to go back and get my administrative certification. And that's what launched me to moving into administration as an assistant principal, also serving then from there into the principalship, director, executive director, now assistant sup. And my last level of aspiration in public ed would hopefully be to one day serve as a superintendent of schools. Because you always have that small voice in your mind, believing that, you'd like to see things drawn to scale. And if those same practices that you've always incurred would really work in the, at the level of a district.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. One of the key things I heard you say that resonated with me, and I'm hoping that it resonated with my audience, you were serving as a counselor, and what really touched you in that role is that you start doing things or seeing things that you did not receive when you were in school. You got a chance to serve in the school that you graduated from as a counselor, and your expectations were to provide the resources for those students, resources that you did not receive. God gifted you the ability to be to see that and said, this is what I want you to get. Because I didn't receive, I want to be able to share this with you. You was paying it forward or paying it backwards, but you provided those resources. And look at the outcome of that valedictorians, salutatorians, college graduates that all came out of that. Having that mentorship that you provided as a counselor for the high school campus provided that next step for those kids. I had a chance to talk to one of the men that I work with in my consulting business. And that's part of what he does as well, to be able to work with those educators, be able to work with those students, provide the resources and the gifting, the things that he did not receive when he was in school. And that's part of my mission as well. I think I've shared that with you as well, working with educators,
yes,
working with those, the leaders, and working with the teachers, hopefully providing them the tools to be able to have the conversations and the mentorship and the coaching skills to be able to coach that young man or woman that may not get seen. That's and right. Coach them and encourage them to the next level.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Attitude of I did, you can, yes. An attitude of that. So thank you for what you're doing. That really means a lot. You've kind of already answered this other question. So I'm just going to ask you this. So how long have you been a assistant superintendent, and of course, and are you still having fun and enjoying what you do?
Oh, definitely. This is the 8th year that I've served as assistant superintendent here in Terrell ISD. And all of that experience has come from this organization. And Terrell is a place that you just fall in love with. I mean, I fell in love with the city, I fell in love with the people, and I've fallen in love with the work, as well as our students and community. So it's a situation where I've been blessed that I've been able to pretty much focus on every aspect of the organization. And this latest transition into serving more of a community liaison, community outreach has really been probably the funnest that I've had in quite some time, because it gives me the opportunity to have a lot of flexibility. No day is scripted. No day is like yesterday. Every day is a new challenge and a new opportunity. So we're very excited about the work and the direction that Terrell ISD is headed under the direction of Dr. Georgia Ann Warnock, who's our new superintendent. And I say new because she's only been here a year and a half, and we're already seeing some tremendous strides under her new vision and leadership. So I'm just happy to be a part of it.
That is absolutely great. That is absolutely wonderful. You have this flexibility as being a community liaison. What are some of the things that you are doing in the community to bridge that gap with educators, with the education institution and the community? What are some of the things that you're doing to bridge that gap and get those two entities talking to one another?
Well, the greatest piece is, as you mentioned, just the empowerment of the education piece. So oftentimes there are so many misnomers and miscommunication that occurs between a formal organization and the informality of a community. And so being able to change the perception by changing the conversation and rewriting the narrative, being able to be out, to be visible, and to have those real conversations so that, the organization is not looked upon as an intimidating, form, but one of which you are our bosses. We work for the community. And so it's important to know that this is yours and we're just being stewards of it. But we want to follow and make sure that we not only address your needs, but also your wants. And that has been some impeccable work that we've been able to make headways with our community, because the demographics and the landscape of Terrell has changed. And so oftentimes, traditions that were held were held erroneously, because they no longer impact the forward momentum and forward movement of the community. And so we have to continuously have those conversations.
And the only way you can have those conversations and know those things you just shared is being in the community.
Oh, for sure. You definitely have to be out there. And, it's what we say all the time. We're Terrell together, because it's like Vidal Sassoon. If you don't look good, we don't look good. And so we have to work together. now that's dating myself. A lot of people
I know
understand
right there. Vidal Sassoon. I haven't heard that in a long time, but
yes,
thanks for the reminder.
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for the reminder.
Yes,
Getting
sir.
out, knocking on doors, meeting
Yes, sir.
people where they are, meeting the students where they are, asking the parents, how can I serve you?
Yes,
asking the children, what not are your needs, but what are your wants?
Exactly.
What are your wants? I love that. I love that attitude. I've had a chance to sit and talk with you for a couple of hours and be able to understand your heart and your passion for the community of Terrell.
Yes.
And let me follow up with this right here and what you're doing. You are leading by actions. You are leading by modeling. You are leading and meeting the people where they are. But leaders come in all different packages and different strengths. What strengths do you feel are important to be a successful leader?
That's a great question. And it's something that we communicate throughout the organization all the time. Leadership is a form of discipleship. It's about servanthood. It's not about a title. It's not about a check. It's not about a position. And that is something that I think, as public education has been polarized and politicized, that we often forget that this is a people business. This is a business that the greatest asset is our human capital. The whole purpose is to ensure that we're able to educate all students, and all means all. The attacks that we're under in public education is really forging the desire to privatize education, which would do more harm than good. As a matter of fact, we would have legal segregation if that were to take place, where you have the haves versus the have-nots. And that is not the mantra of what education is all it should be. It is truly the game changer. It is truly the mantra that will change the landscape of individual student lives and generations for years to come. It's the game changer. And so it's important that we continue to embrace public schools and the great work that we do.
My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, we can actually drop the mic and go home. That is absolutely impactful and powerful. It is the game changer. It's the trajectory of an entire generation education. The greatest way to change the world, according to Nelson Mandela, I'm just paraphrasing his quote, is through education.
Yes.
Because some of those students that you have in Dr. Polk some are first generation high school graduates.
Yes.
And then if they get into college, they provide hope for the entire family and for those that are before them and for those that come after them.
That's right.
Absolutely. Because you provide hope by walking into your calling. Mm-hmm. And then I see you walking into your calling, not by your talk, but by your walk.
That's right.
That provides hopes for me. That provide hopes for that 6-year-old, that 7-year-old, that 8-year-old, that 9-year-old, because they see the person ahead of them walking into their calling and the advantages of education and the doors that's opened up for them. Absolutely. But you said education is for all?
Yes.
Education is about leaders, and education is about servant leadership. Mm-hmm. Education leaders is about discipleship. Mm-hmm. Discipleship is coaching and mentoring and providing hope and inspiration. And so if we don't get to any other question, we can close it out right there.
Yes.
But I do have some more questions, but that is absolutely important that we understand that. You can hear the passion mm-hmm. in Dr. Polk, because education made a difference in his life.
Yes.
And education made a difference in my life. I'm not going to share my story, but I've shared some of it with Dr. Polk previously, but it made a difference. It changed the trajectory of my grandkids.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And they're in the first grade and 10 months old, and you have mm-hmm. a 3-year-old grandson, mm-hmm. and what you did changed the trajectory of your entire family.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very passionate.
Yes.
Good leaders ask great questions.
Right.
What has been some of the questions that you have been asked that's made a difference in your path? Some of the questions that you have been asked have challenged you that's made a difference in your life?
Well, I think it was stemming from what you started the conversation with, is that it's important that we start with the why. You know, people don't buy what you're selling. They buy why you do what you do. They don't buy what you do. It's why you do what you do. And, you know, the questions that I ask and the question that I ask others is that if not you, then who? As an educational practitioner, if you're not going to be the change agent for every student that you touch, then why are you here? And if you're not going to start that today and repeat that every day, then when are you going to stop? Because the sense of urgency for that to transpire is now. More so now than ever before. And so we challenge, and we are constantly equipping and enriching and empowering our practitioners that it's important that they are able to share their heart. And I told a group of new teachers in a session on yesterday, I can teach you the pedagogy to become a phenomenal teacher. What I can't teach you is to have a heart and love for kids. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to develop the relationships to even reach the kid. See, a teacher, if we drop the T, is for each. Each and every one of the students that you have to develop that relationship. You have to. And how do we develop relationships that are genuine? I'm glad you asked. We develop that by getting to know every student, because every student has something uniquely about them that will make the difference in their life. And it's important that we show them that mirror. And as I ask practitioners, we have to do more mirror work than window work. If I ask the question, how many teachers believe that all kids can learn, 99.99% of them would say yes. But the real question is, just as you mentioned, it's not your talk, but your walk. Does your behavior align with your beliefs? Because you're challenged to make decisions in the classroom every day that will be impactful in the life of that student. And so what I ask, I've done this around the country, Professor Jeff, because, you know, I'm still a teacher.
Amen.
And I asked the question, I said, if you think about all of the teachers that you've had from kindergarten, and for you young listeners, from pre-K to 12th grade, how many teachers you've had. Now, when you think about that, you have to break down that in your pre-K, kinder through second grade, you were probably self-contained, and you probably had one teacher. Then when you got to third grade, 3 through 5, most elementaries departmentalized. So you have a math teacher, a science teacher, a history teacher. You still got the PE teacher. And of course, my favorite subject was the cafeteria manager, because the lunch class. You know, I still get straight A's in that. All right. But when we move into middle school, you start changing classes. You've got 7 or 8 teachers. High school, 9 through 12, 7 to 8 teachers. Here's my story. For me, I had 75 teachers from kinder through 12th grade. Now, I do an activity that I call human mathematics, because we're not counting numbers, but we make numbers count. And numbers will tell our story. My 4th grade teacher says when you want the numbers to tell a story, you create a fraction. And so 75 teachers. Then I come back and ask the question, how many made a positive impact in your life? And get that number in your head and write it on the paper. For me, there was only 3. There was only 3. So my fraction was, you make that denominator the total sum, which is 75. You make that numerator, which is the number on the top that made the impact, which was 3. And then she says, when you see fractions, the number sense is to think about decimals, because now you're going to divide the denominator into the numerator. For me, it's 75 into 3. So I have to add a decimal and 2 zeros in order for that to configure. That gives me 0.4. Then she says, when you see a decimal, you change that decimal to a percent. How do you do it? You move it 2 places to the right. 4%, Professor Jeff, 4% of my total educational high school, elementary, middle school career, there were only 3 teachers that made an impact in my life. 4%. Now think about that. In Terrell, Texas, we educate 4,950 students. If only 4% of our students are impacted by teachers who make a difference in their life, then we're failing.
My goodness.
We're failing. Well, guess what? I've done this around the country, and I've not come up with an average of practitioners in a room above 25%. 25% on a 100% scale is failure. But then we talk about the power of one, because it only takes one that will make the difference in the life of an individual.
Individual.
It only takes one. And so the question I ask teachers is, Will you be that one? What will your students say about you? And this is the reason that I get up every day and come into an organization, because I am not satisfied with 25% of 100% of educators. We won't be satisfied until we have 100%
100%.
of every teacher in an organization that is making an impact in the lives of kids. And this is why we get up and do what we do every day.
Whew. Dr. Polk, I'm going to pick up the mic and I'm going to throw it on the floor as hard as I possibly can. If I can just, I'm on the second floor of my house right now. If I can just throw the mic down, it goes right through the floor, into the second floor, into the garage, and go out in the hallway and roll down the street to the school district and say, listen to this. Powerful, impactful. Let me just read a comment I have right quick. Can I read this comment? If I can I want to read this. It said, impactful and engaging conversation. Dr. Polk, you are dropping some knowledge, sir. That's just coming from the comments right now on one of the Facebook pages. You are not only dropping some knowledge, but you are calling us to action.
Yes.
You're calling us to action. And when you did those mathematical equations, of course, you lost me there because that was not my subject. That was not my strength. I'm telling you, I was, okay, I'm just going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4. But you challenged me to think and reflect of what teachers, or how many teachers impacted me 1 through 12. I was not exposed. We didn't have kindergarten when I was coming up. So it was first grade through 12th grade.
Yes.
And I can tell you right now, Dr. Poe, quick reflection, right on the spot, the number is only 1. You talked about the power of 1.
Yes.
And that was a 1. And guess what? He was not a classroom teacher at the subject of mines. He was my 10th grade track coach.
There you go. There you go.
Because what you just said, you don't learn from people you don't like.
That's it.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's exactly right.
And has to be about a relationship.
That's what it's about.
It's got to be, because once you like me and I know you like me, you open up my mind and you challenge me.
Yes.
You challenge my thinking, you challenge my brain, and you provide hope for me, because since I like you, I'm okay with you challenging me because I know you care about my future.
That's right. That's right.
My goodness, Dr. Pope. Where did you come from, brother? How do we clone you, Dr. Pope?
Well, it's each one teach one, you know. We take that message and we share it with the next, and that next one takes it and shares it with the next. And that's why we believe leadership is a form of discipleship.
It's a leadership, is a form of discipleship. We talk about servant leadership and mentoring and coaches and body of all that. Now, my follow-up question to that, you just impacted our educators, our teachers. And then here I am, a math teacher, and I am seeing Dr. Polk. I am seeing my principal, and I am kind of like you. I want to be a principal. I want to be an assistant principal. How do you challenge, and what do you share with those desires, those emerging leaders? What message do you provide for them, and what challenges do you give to them? I think I know what you're going to say, but I want you to share it anyway.
Well, you know, we challenge them by basically asking the question of why, going back to the why. You know, most often we know that promotion comes from God, and he uses people to become a part of the journey for our next commission. And so for those aspiring administrators, I always say, do a great job in your current job, and you won't have to look for your next job. It will come and look for you. I only applied for one job in the 28 years. I've been blessed. I only applied for one job in public education since I started in 94. And that was my first teaching and coaching job that I applied for in Kearns ISD in Kearns, Texas, and didn't even take the job to go there. I talked to Dr. Vance Vaughn, who's a mentor of mine and a former educator. He's a professor at UT Tyler, retired. And he constantly laughs about it because he said, I offered you to be a teacher coach and you turned me down. And I'm going to tell you real quickly why. Because originally he had just hired a new head football coach, and he was going to have me to teach speech communications and also serve on the staff as a football coach. And then when the football coach brought in his offensive coordinator, the coordinator had a speech communication certificate. And so obviously he trumped me, and they were going to move me into SPED as an inclusion teacher. And I told him that it takes a special educator to educate SPED students. And I did not want to cheat any kid. And that was not my expertise nor my background. And so not having a job, I declined that job because of the change in the teaching field. Long story short is, like I said, at that point, I was able to start teaching my teaching career in NSISD, which is the district that I conferred my high school diploma out of. And the rest has been history. But, every job thereafter just came on doing the work in the job I was in. And you build a reputation, and people just want you to be on the team. You become the type of teammate that every team desires. And that is, it's we, not me, and it's us. You check your ego at the door, and you roll up your sleeves, and you do the work. And that's what I am. I'm not a politician. I'm a worker, and I just do the work. And that's how we've been able to get to the point and the level that we are now. And
you still saying we, not
yes.
me. You're saying we.
No, this job is too big for me to be able to do it by myself. It's the team that we have been gifted to have together and to serve these students as well as our community.
I love it. To those aspiring educators that desire to go into leadership and education leadership, do good, do great, and you'd never have to apply for a job because the job will come looking for you.
That's right.
If you're not prepared when the opportunity shows up, you're not going to get it. But the only way that you are prepared is do well at what you're doing, and then opportunity will knock on your door.
Yes.
So you're listening, aspiring teachers, desire to be leaders and desire to be educational leaders. The power of one, connect with that student, and that student will talk about how great you are, and they'll share that with their parents. They'll share that with other educators on the campus, and opportunities will knock on your door. I love it. 27 years in education and going to apply for one job, and you turned that one down. My goodness, man. That's amazing. We're getting ready to close, and I have one last question for you, Dr. Polk.
All right.
And his question is, if there was a book written about you, what would be the title and what would be the narrative of the book?
That's a great question, Professor Jeff. First of all, I'd be honored if a book was written about me. And the title, it would be Believer. Believer.
Believer.
Believer.
Oh, I can add so much to that. Believer.
Because what sustains us is our faith and our belief in our Lord Jesus Christ, who's the head of my life. And as a believer, you can overcome any obstacle that life will present. It provides you with the tenacity, the perseverance, but also the personality. Because as a believer, you realize and you recognize that it's not about you. It's about people, the love of people, and how we're able to do more together than we were ever meant to do alone.
Look at there. We are made by God to serve each other. Believer gives you hope, gives you tenacity, gives you the desire. In despite of the obstacles of challenge, if you're a believer, that tomorrow is better than today.
That's right.
That is absolutely. Dr. Pope, sir, it has been an honor to having you on Win with Willie today. You have definitely helped us to serve on, grow on, lean in to what God has called us to do. There's so many summaries that I could use for what you have said. And each one of the questions, there was a summary. So you just wrote a chapter, and at the end of those chapters, there was what I call the summary of that chapter. So I'm asking you as listeners, go back and listen to this audio recording, this video recording. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share this information with other educators and family members. Get connected to Win with Willie broadcast every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Tune in next week. We just had a phenomenal call to action by Dr. Larry Polk, the Assistant Superintendent of Dr. Larry Polk Jr., the Assistant Superintendent of Terrell Independent School District, where Gilbert E. Willie Elementary School sits on one of their properties in Terrell, Texas. Dr. Pope, it has been an absolute honor, an absolute pleasure. I am going to listen to this again because your wisdom, your passion, and your purpose and your why is significant. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to tune in next week because I have Colonel Air Force retired Kenneth Allison will be here. He's Associate Director of the Hollandworth Center for Ethical Leadership at Texas A&M University. I am so honored to have this platform where I can honor our leaders, our educationals, our pastoral leaders, our military leaders, our entrepreneurs that's doing a great thing in our community. So tune in next week. Dr. Pope, sir, it has been a pleasure. And I'm going to close out. Tune in next week, folks. This is important. He got me fired up. I can't even stop talking. He got me excited. I love it. I'll love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week.